Hey everyone. Get cozy, settle into a comfy position, and let these calming tales whisk you away to a peaceful night's sleep. Drop a comment below on what time and from where you are watching this video and share your own late-night ritual that helps you drift off. I never thought I'd end up in Baldur's Gate, let alone call it home. The city's a chaotic mess of stone and ambition, where the air smells of salt, sweat, and something faintly magical, like ozone after a storm. My name's Kael, and I'm just a nobody from the lower city, scraping by as a courier for the less savory types who run the docks. This is my story posted here because, well, I've got nowhere else to put it and maybe someone out there will get a kick out of it. Or a warning. It started a year ago when I was dodging fists in a tavern brawl at the Blushing Mermaid. I wasn't even part of the fight, just trying to deliver a sealed letter to a hooded figure in the corner. The letter was from some high up in the fist, though I didn't know that at the time. All I knew was the coin was good and I needed to eat. The guy I was supposed to meet, a wiry elf with eyes like chipped obsidian, grabbed the letter, slipped me a pouch of gold and muttered, "Keep your mouth shut, kid." I nodded, but as I turned to leave, a bottle sailed past my head and smashed into the wall. The elf didn't flinch. He just vanished into the crowd like smoke. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling I'd stepped into something bigger than a simple delivery. The pouch had more gold than I'd seen in a month, and the letter's wax seal had a symbol I didn't recognize, a crescent moon cradling a dagger. I should have known better than to get curious in Baldur's Gate. Curiosity here is like poking a sleeping owlbear. The next morning I woke to a knife at my throat. A woman with a scar running from her ear to her chin stood over me, her breath sour with cheap wine. "Where's the letter?" she hissed. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it'd burst through my ribs. I stammered that I'd delivered it, which was true, but she didn't believe me. She pressed the blade closer, drawing a bead of blood. "You're in deep now, courier. Find out who that elf was, or I'll gut you and leave you for the gulls." I didn't have a choice. I started asking around, carefully, in the dives and alleys where people talk if you flash enough coin or look desperate enough. Nobody knew the elf, but the symbol on the seal kept coming up. Whispers called it the mark of the Shadowveil, a secret group that supposedly pulled strings in the city's underbelly. Smugglers, assassins, maybe even mages, nobody knew for sure. All I knew was I was a rat in a trap and the trap was closing fast. I spent the next week dodging trouble while trying to track down the elf. The lower city's a maze of narrow streets and darker secrets, and I knew most of its corners from years of running packages. I started with Old Man Gorin, a fence who'd sell his own kids for the right price. He was holed up in his usual spot, a cluttered shop that smelled of rust and regret. "Heard of the Shadowveil, Kael?" Gorin asked, his voice like gravel. "You're asking for a short life." He wouldn't say more, but he pointed me to a tavern called the Drowned Rat, where the elf was supposedly a regular. The Drowned Rat was worse than the mermaid, dank, dim, and full of people who'd stab you for looking at them wrong. I slipped in, keeping my hood up, and spotted the elf at a corner table, sipping something that steamed unnaturally. I didn't approach him. Instead I watched. He was meeting someone, a human in a fine cloak, too fine for a place like this. They spoke in low tones and I caught the word gatekeeper before a hand clamped on my shoulder. It was Scarface, the woman from my room. "You're slow, Kael," she said, dragging me outside. In the alley she shoved me against a wall. "The elf's name is Varen. He's Shadowveil, alright, but he's not your problem. The gatekeeper is. Find out who they are, or I'll make sure you're fish food." I was in over my head, but I couldn't stop. The gatekeeper, whoever they were, was tied to the fist, the Shadowveil, and gods know what else. I started tailing Varen, keeping my distance. He moved like he knew the city's pulse, slipping through crowds, vanishing into alleys. One night, I followed him to the upper city, where the rich live behind their gilded gates. He met the cloaked human again, this time in a garden lit by floating orbs. I hid behind a statue, close enough to hear fragments. "The gatekeeper's ready," the human said. "The ritual's set. We just need the key." The key. That word stuck with me. I didn't know what it meant, but it felt like the kind of thing that could get a person killed. I kept following Varen, but he was slippery. One night, I lost him in the fog near the docks. I was about to give up when I heard a scream, a sharp, desperate sound that cut through the night. I ran toward it, my boots slipping on wet cobblestones, and found a body in an alley. It was the cloaked human, throat slit, eyes wide with terror. A crescent and dagger pendant hung from their neck. I should have run. Instead, I searched the body. Tucked in their cloak was a folded note, sealed with the same symbol. My hand shook as I broke the wax. Inside was a single line: "The key is in the vault. WRM's crossing midnight." I didn't know what vault, but I knew WRM's crossing. It was a bridge guarded by the Fist, a place no courier like me had any business being. Scarface found me again the next day. I told her about the note, hoping it'd get her off my back. Instead, her eyes lit up. "You're coming with me," she said. "We're getting that key." I protested, but she had a dagger and a temper, so I went. We reached WRM's crossing just before midnight, the bridge looming like a stone giant over the Kayantha River. The Fist patrols were light, distracted by some festival in the upper city. Scarface led me to a hidden grate beneath the bridge, a rusted thing half covered in moss. We crawled through a damp tunnel, emerging in a chamber lit by flickering blue runes. In the center was a stone pedestal, and on it, a small ornate box. Scarface grinned. "That's it. The key." But as she reached for it, the runes flared, and Varen stepped from the shadows, a blade in each hand. "You're persistent, Kael," he said, his voice cold. "But you're out of your depth." Scarface lunged at Varen, her dagger flashing. I dove behind the pedestal, my heart racing. The chamber echoed with the clash of steel and grunted curses. Varen was fast, too fast, his blades a blur. Scarface was good, but she was no match. Within moments she was on the ground, blood pooling beneath her. I thought I was next, but Varen just stared at me, his eyes unreadable. "Take the box," he said. "And run." I didn't argue. I grabbed the box and bolted, the weight of it heavier than it should have been. I didn't stop until I was back in the lower city, hiding in a crate-strewn alley. The box was locked, but it hummed faintly like it was alive. I didn't dare open it. Instead, I went to Gorin, hoping he'd know what to do. He took one look at the box and paled. "That's no key," he whispered. "That's a soul trap. The gatekeeper's not a person, it's a thing. A ritual to open a gate to the hells." I felt sick. I'd been carrying a piece of some infernal puzzle, and now I was marked. Gorin told me to ditch the box, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed answers. I went back to the drowned rat, hoping to find someone who knew more. Instead, I found the Fist waiting. They grabbed me, dragged me to a cell in the basilisk gate, and beat me until I could barely see. "Where's the key?" they kept asking. I told them I didn't know, but they didn't believe me. Then, a miracle, or a curse. The cell door opened, and Varen stood there, blood on his blades. "You're not done yet," he said, pulling me to my feet. He led me through the sewers, moving like he knew every twist and turn. "The Shadowveil's falling apart," he said as we ran. "The Fist, the gatekeeper, they're all after the same thing. That box opens a gate, but not just to the hells. To power. Control. The kind of thing that burns cities to ash." We surfaced in a warehouse near the docks, where Varen's allies waited, Shadowveil or what was left of them. They were a ragged bunch, but their eyes burned with purpose. Varen explained the box wasn't just a soul trap. It was a relic from the time of troubles tied to Baal himself. The gatekeeper was a ritual to summon a fragment of the god's power, and every faction in Baldur's Gate wanted it. The Fist thought they could control it. The Shadowveil wanted to destroy it. And me? I just wanted to survive. We planned to destroy the box at a ruined temple outside the city, where the ritual's magic would be weakest. But the Fist was closing in. We moved at dawn, slipping through the countryside under a gray sky. The temple was a crumbling wreck, its altars stained with old blood. Varen's mages began a counter-ritual, chanting in a language that made my skin crawl. I held the box, its hum growing louder like a heartbeat. That's when the Fist attacked. Dozens of them, led by a captain with a face like stone. Arrows flew, spells crackled, and I ducked behind a pillar, clutching the box. Varen fought like a demon, but there were too many. One by one his allies fell. I saw my chance and ran, the box still in my hands, into the temple's depths. In a chamber below, I found an altar carved with the same crescent and dagger symbol. The box vibrated, and a voice, not mine, whispered in my head, "Open it." I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was tired of running. Maybe I was curious. I broke the lock and light poured out, blinding me. When my vision cleared, I wasn't in the temple anymore. I was in a void, facing a figure wreathed in shadow. "You've done well, Kael," it said, its voice like 1,000 knives. "The gate is open." I woke up back in the temple, the box gone, my hands burned. Varen was there, bloody but alive. "You idiot," he said, but there was no venom in it. The fists were gone, the temple silent. The ritual had failed, or so we thought. Varen told me the gate hadn't fully opened, but something had slipped through. Something hungry. We returned to Baldur's Gate, but the city felt different. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. People whispered of disappearances, of eyes in the dark. I tried to go back to my old life, but the fist had my name, and the Shadowveil wasn't done with me. Varen vanished, leaving me a note. "Keep running. It's not over. I'm still here in the lower city watching my back. The box is gone, but I feel it like a weight in my chest. I don't know what I let out, but it's watching me. Sometimes I hear that voice again whispering my name. I don't know if I saved Baldur's Gate or doomed it. All I know is I'm not the same Kael who started this mess. If you're reading this, stay out of the shadows. And if you see a crescent and dagger symbol, run. I'm still here in the lower city watching my back. The box is gone, but I feel it like a weight in my chest. I don't know what I let out, but it's watching me. Sometimes I hear that voice again whispering my name. I don't know if I saved Baldur's Gate or doomed it. All I know is I'm not the same Kael who started this mess." The days after the temple were a blur. I holed up in a ratty attic above a butcher's shop, the kind of place where the smell of blood and offal clings to everything. I didn't dare go back to my old routes. Too many eyes, too many knives. The fist had plastered sketches of my face around the docks, calling me a person of interest. The Shadowveil, or what was left of them, weren't much better. I'd catch glimpses of cloaked figures trailing me in the fog, their steps too quiet, too deliberate. I was a marked man caught between two beasts, and neither cared if I lived or died. Sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of the floorboards had me clutching the dagger I'd stolen from Scarface's body. The voice, the one from the void, came at night, soft as a lover's whisper but cold as a grave. Kael would say, "You open the door. Now you owe me." I told myself it was just nightmares, but the burns on my hands hadn't faded. They pulsed sometimes like they were alive. I needed answers, so I went back to Old Man Gorin. His shop was emptier than usual, the shelves half bare, like he was packing up to run. "You're a fool for coming here," he said, not looking up from the ledger he was scribbling in. "The city's tearing itself apart, and you're at the center of it." "Tell me about the gatekeeper," I said, slamming my fist on the counter. A few rusty trinkets rattled to the floor. Gorin sighed, his eyes flicking to the door like he expected trouble to walk through it. "It's not a who, Kael. It's a what? A ritual old as the city itself, tied to Baal's blood. That box you carried? It wasn't just a soul trap. It was a tether meant to pull something through, a piece of a god, or worse. You broke the lock, didn't you?" I nodded, my throat tight. Gorin cursed under his breath. "Then you've got a shadow on you, boy. Something's here and it's hungry. The Fist think they can control it. The Shadowveil thought they could stop it. Both are wrong." He slid a crumpled map across the counter, marked with a spot in the Underdark, deep beneath the city. "There's a shrine down there older than Baldur's Gate. If you want to fix this, that's where you start. But I'm warning you, go down there and you might not come back." I didn't have much choice. The voice was getting louder, the burns on my hands throbbing like a heartbeat. I gathered what little I had, a dagger, a water skin, a half-broken lantern, and headed for the sewers. The entrance was hidden behind a crumbling wall in Heapside, a slum where even the rats seemed desperate. The air down there was thick, sour with rot and something metallic. My lantern cast long shadows, and every drip of water sounded like footsteps. The map led me deeper than I'd ever gone, past rusted grates and forgotten tunnels. I found the shrine after hours of wandering, a cavern carved with symbols that made my eyes ache. At its center was a pool of black liquid, still as glass but rippling faintly, like it was breathing. The air was heavy, pressing on my chest, and the voice was there, louder now. "Go. Step closer." I didn't want to, but my feet moved anyway. The pool reflected nothing, no light, no face, just darkness. Then it spoke, not in my head but out loud, a sound like breaking bones. "You freed me," it said. "Now you serve me." I stumbled back, my lantern clattering to the ground. The darkness in the pool surged, forming a shape, tall, humanoid, but wrong, like it was stitched together from nightmares. Its eyes were pits, its mouth a jagged tear. "The city will bleed," it said. "And you will bring me the blood." I ran. I don't know how long, but I didn't stop until I was back in the lower city, gasping in an alley. The burns on my hands were glowing now, faint but undeniable. I was marked, bound to whatever I'd let out. I needed help, but who could I trust? Varen was gone, Goran was half ready to bolt, and the fist would kill me on sight. That's when I met Lila. She was a tiefling, all sharp horns and sharper wit, running a makeshift clinic in the Brampton district. I stumbled in, half delirious, and she patched me up without asking too many questions. "You look like you've seen a god," she said, her tail flicking as she stitched a cut on my arm. "Something like that," I muttered. I told her everything. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I was desperate. Lila didn't laugh or call me crazy. She just listened, her yellow eyes narrowing. "You've got a problem, Kael," she said when I finished. "That thing you saw? It's not Ball, not exactly. It's a shard, a piece of his essence, and it's using you as an anchor. We need to break the bond before it takes you over." Lila knew more than she let on. She'd grown up in the outer city, where tieflings and other undesirables were pushed by the Fist's laws. She'd seen things, cults, rituals, things that shouldn't exist. She had a contact, a gnome named Turk who'd studied the arcane under a mad wizard. "He's not exactly stable," Lila warned as we headed to his hideout, "but he knows old magic." Turk's place was a junk-filled basement, walls covered in scribbled runes and broken clockwork. He was tiny even for a gnome, with wild hair and eyes that never blinked. "A ball shard, eh?" he said, practically bouncing with excitement. "Nasty business. You're lucky it hasn't eaten your soul yet." He rummaged through a pile of books, muttering about soul anchors and planar tethers. He found what he was looking for, a ritual to sever the bond. It needed 3 things: a drop of my blood, a fragment of the box I'd opened, and the name of the thing in the pool. The blood was easy. The box fragment was harder. I'd have to go back to the temple. The name? That was the worst part. Turk said I'd have to face the shard again, look into its eyes, and demand its true name. If I got it wrong, it'd claim me for good. Lila came with me. I don't know why she stuck her neck out, but I was grateful. We retraced my steps to the temple, moving at night to avoid the Fist. The countryside was eerily quiet, the air heavy with the promise of rain. The temple was as I'd left it, littered with bodies and broken weapons. The box fragment was near the altar, a twisted piece of metal that burned my fingers when I touched it. We didn't have time to celebrate. The ground shook and the shard appeared, its form more solid now, its eyes glowing like dying stars. "You cannot escape me," it said, its voice shaking the walls. Lila grabbed my arm, her claws digging in. "Do it, Kael. Now." I stepped forward, my heart hammering, and looked into its eyes. "What's your name?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The shard laughed, a sound like shattering glass, and lunged. I stepped forward, my heart hammering, and looked into its eyes. "What's your name?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The shard laughed, a sound like shattering glass, and lunged. Lila yanked me back just as the shard's claw sliced through the air where I'd been standing. The temple shook, dust raining from the cracked ceiling. "Keep it talking," she hissed, scrambling for her satchel. I had no idea what she was planning, but I trusted her. My hands burned, the glowing marks pulsing like they were trying to break free. The shard loomed, its form shifting, now a towering figure, now a writhing mass of shadow and bone. Its eyes never changed, though, twin voids that pulled at my soul. "What's your name?" I yelled again, dodging behind a fallen pillar. The shard's laughter filled the chamber, cold and jagged. "You think a name will save you, mortal? I am the hunger, the blade in the dark. I am what remains when gods bleed." I clung to those words, my mind racing. Turk had said the true name was power, a tether to bind or break. But the shard wasn't giving it up easily. Lila was chanting now, low and urgent, pulling vials and herbs from her satchel. She was setting up the ritual, I realized, but we needed the name to finish it. I had to keep the thing distracted. "You're nothing," I shouted, my voice steadier than I felt. "A piece of a dead god, scraping by on my blood. You need me more than I need you." It was a gamble, taunting something that could rip me apart, but it worked. The shard roared, its form solidifying into a grotesque parody of a man, all sharp angles and dripping ichor. It charged, and I dove, rolling across the stone floor as its claws gouged the pillar behind me. "Fool," it snarled. "I am Zareth, the unseen Fang, the Eater of Will. You open the gate. You are mine. Zareth. That was it. I locked eyes with Lila, who nodded, her hands moving faster over the ritual circle she'd drawn in chalk and blood. Say it, she shouted. I gripped the box fragment, its heat searing my palm, and raised it like a weapon. Zareth. I bellowed. I name you and I reject you. The words felt heavy, like they were pulled from my bones. The shard froze, its eyes widening, and for a moment I thought we'd won. Then it screamed, a sound that tore at my mind, sending me to my knees. The burns on my hands flared, and I felt it, Zareth, clawing at my thoughts, trying to drag me into the void. Lila's chanting grew louder, her voice cutting through the chaos. She tossed a vial into the circle, and it shattered, releasing a cloud of shimmering dust. The air crackled with magic, and the shard writhed, its form unraveling like smoke. No, it roared. You cannot sever the bond. But it was weakening, its voice fading. I forced myself to stand, clutching the box fragment, and joined Lila's chant, repeating the words Turk had taught us. The ritual peaked, a pulse of light erupting from the circle. The shard collapsed into the pool of black liquid at the temple's heart, the surface rippling violently before going still. The burns on my hands dimmed, the pain easing for the first time in days. I collapsed, gasping, as Lila sank beside me, her face pale but triumphant. We did it, she said, her voice hoarse. It's gone. But I wasn't so sure. The temple was quiet, but the air felt wrong, like a storm waiting to break. We gathered our things and fled, the box fragment still in my hand. I didn't trust leaving it behind. Back in Baldur's Gate, the city was on edge. The Fist had doubled their patrols, and rumors of disappearances were spreading like wildfire. People whispered of shadows moving on their own, of voices in the dark. I wanted to believe we'd stopped Zareth, but the weight in my chest hadn't lifted. Lila and I went to Turk, hoping he could confirm the ritual had worked. Turk's basement was a mess, books and tools scattered like a storm had blown through. He was pacing, muttering to himself, his hair wilder than before. You named it? He asked, eyes wide. I nodded, showing him the box fragment. He flinched like I'd shown him a viper. That's not just a fragment, Kael. It's a key. The ritual didn't destroy Zareth. It banished it, but only for a time. As long as that fragment exists, it can come back. I felt sick. All this and we'd only bought time? Lila grabbed Turk's arm. Then we'd destroy the fragment. Now. Turk shook his head. Not so simple. It's bound to Kael's blood now. Destroy it and you might kill him. I wanted to scream, to throw the fragment into the Kyanthar and be done with it, but Turk was right. I could feel it, a faint hum in my veins, tying me to the cursed thing. Lila didn't back down, though. Then we find another way, she said. There's always another way. We spent days scouring Turk's books, looking for a solution. The Fist were closing in, their sketches of me now joined by ones of Lila. The Shadowveil were quieter, but I knew they were watching, waiting for a chance to reclaim the fragment. One night, as we pored over a crumbling tome, Lila found something. A ritual to transfer the bond to another object, something that could be destroyed without killing me. It wasn't perfect. The ritual required a sacrifice, something of equal weight to my blood. Turk suggested a relic from the shrine in the Underdark, a dagger said to be stained with Baal's own blood. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. We planned to return to the shrine, but the Fist found us first. They hit Turk's basement at dawn, smashing through the door with swords drawn. Lila and I fought our way out, but Turk wasn't so lucky. I saw him go down, a blade through his chest, his eyes still wide with that manic curiosity. We ran, the fragment burning in my pocket, and didn't stop until we reached the sewers. The Underdark was worse the second time. The air was heavier, the shadows deeper. Lila led the way, her tail flicking with nervous energy. We get the dagger, we do the ritual, and we end this, she said more to herself than me. I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me. What if the ritual failed? What if Zareth was waiting? The shrine was unchanged, the black pool still and silent. The dagger was there, half buried in the altar, its blade dark with old blood. I reached for it, but the moment my fingers brushed the hilt, the pool erupted. Zareth was back, weaker but no less terrifying, its form a flickering shadow. You cannot escape, it hissed. The bond is eternal. Lila didn't hesitate. She started the ritual, her voice steady despite the thing looming over us. I joined her, clutching the dagger and the fragment, my blood dripping onto the stone. The shard screamed, its form unraveling again, but this time it fought harder, clawing at my mind. I saw flashes, Baldur's Gate burning, bodies in the streets, the fist kneeling before a shadowed throne. Was it a vision or a promise? The ritual finished with a surge of light, and the fragment shattered, the dagger glowing red-hot in my hand. Zaratha's scream faded and the pool went still. I felt the bond break, a weight lifting from my soul. Lila grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the exit. We need to go. Now. We made it back to the city, but Baldur's Gate was different. The fists were everywhere, their eyes cold and searching. The Shadowveil had gone quiet, but I knew they'd never stop hunting the dagger. Lila and I split up. She headed for the outer city, promising to find me later. I kept the dagger, hiding it in a hollowed-out beam in my attic. I'm still here watching the shadows. The voice is gone, but the city feels like it's holding its breath. I don't know if I stopped Zarath or just delayed it. The dagger's a weight I can't shake, a reminder that some doors once opened never fully close. If you're reading this, don't trust the quiet. Baldur's Gate never stays still for long. The attic felt smaller every day, like the walls were closing in. I'd lie awake at night, the dagger hidden in the beam above my head, its presence a constant hum in my mind. The city outside was a powder keg. Fist patrols choked the streets and whispers of rebellion floated through the taverns. People were scared and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd lit the fuse. Zarath was gone, or so I hoped, but the dagger was a loose thread and someone was bound to pull it. I stopped running packages. Too risky. Instead, I took odd jobs, cleaning stalls, hauling crates, anything to blend in. But blending in isn't easy when your face is on wanted posters. I kept my hood up, stuck to the shadows, and avoided the docks where the fists were thickest. The lower city was restless, though. Graffiti started appearing, crescent and dagger symbols scrawled on walls, paired with words like gatekeeper and awaken. The Shadowveil was stirring, or maybe something worse. One night I couldn't stand the attic anymore. I needed air, answers, anything. I slipped out, heading for the Blushing Mermaid, figuring I could eavesdrop on the drunks and sailors. The tavern was packed, the air thick with smoke and laughter that felt forced. I was halfway through a watered-down ale when I saw her. Lila, sitting in a corner booth, her horns glinting in the lamplight. She looked different, harder, like the city had worn her down. I slid into the seat across from her, keeping my voice low. "You shouldn't be here," she said, not looking up from her drink. "They're watching." "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. "Everyone. The fist, the Shadowveil, and something else." Her eyes flicked to mine, yellow and sharp. "You still have the dagger?" I nodded, my stomach twisting. "What's going on, Lila?" "The city's falling apart." She leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "The ritual didn't just banish Zarath. It woke something else, something older. The dagger's not just a relic, it's a beacon. Every cultist, mage, and power-hungry bastard in Baldur's Gate wants it now." I cursed under my breath. "What do we do?" "We get out," she said. "Leave the city, take the dagger somewhere it can't do harm. There's a place in the Cloakwood, a grove where old magic still holds. We can hide it there." Leaving Baldur's Gate wasn't simple. The fist had the gates locked down and the roads were crawling with bandits and worse. But staying wasn't an option either. I agreed to meet Lila at dawn in Heapside, near the sewer entrance we'd used before. I went back to the attic, grabbed the dagger, and wrapped it in a rag to dull its hum. It felt heavier than before, like it was angry. Dawn came gray and cold. Heapside was quiet, the slums draped in mist. Lila was waiting, a pack slung over her shoulder, her tail twitching nervously. "Ready?" she asked. I nodded, but before we could move, boots echoed on the cobblestones. A fist patrol, 6 strong, rounded the corner, their captain's eyes locking onto us. "Run!" Lila shouted, but I froze. The captain was no stranger. It was Varen, the elf I'd chased across the city. His face was unreadable, but his sword was drawn, and the fist behind him looked ready to kill. Lila grabbed my arm, yanking me toward the sewer grate, but Varen was faster. He moved like a shadow, cutting us off. "You've got something that doesn't belong to you," he said, his voice cold. "Hand it over, Kael." I clutched the dagger tighter, its hum vibrating through my bones. "You're with the fist now?" I spat. "What happened to the Shadowveil?" Varen's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "The Shadowveil's gone. Scattered. I'm cleaning up your mess." Lila stepped between us, her claws out. Back off, elf. We're not giving you anything. The fist closed in, but Varen raised a hand, stopping them. Last chance, he said. I didn't trust him, but I didn't have a plan either. The sewer was our only shot. I nodded to Lila and we bolted, diving for the grate. Arrows clattered around us, one grazing my shoulder as we dropped into the dark. The sewers were a labyrinth, but Lila knew them better than I did. We ran, the dagger's hum growing louder like it was calling out. Varen's voice echoed behind us, calm but relentless. You can't hide, Kael. I didn't look back. We emerged in a tunnel near the docks, the air salty and sharp. Lila led me to a smuggler's skiff she'd stashed, and we pushed off, rowing hard for the open water. The Kayantha River carried us out of the city, its current strong and cold. The skiff was small, barely holding together, but it got us to the edge of the cloakwood by nightfall. The forest was dense, the trees ancient and gnarled, their branches blocking out the stars. Lila led the way, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The grove's deep in, she said. Protected by druids, or so the stories go. We moved quietly, the dagger's hum now a steady pulse. The forest felt alive watching us. Twigs snapped behind, but when I looked there was nothing, just shadows. Lila's tail flicked, her nerves showing. We're close, she whispered. The grove was a clearing ringed by stones carved with runes that glowed faintly green. At its center was a tree, massive and twisted, its roots pulsing with light. Lila knelt, pulling out a small shovel. We bury the dagger here, she said. The grove's magic will keep it hidden. I hesitated. The dagger felt like part of me now, its hum syncing with my heartbeat. But I trusted Lila. I handed it over and she started digging. That's when the air shifted, a cold wind cutting through the trees. Varen stepped into the clearing, alone, his sword glinting in the runelight. You're predictable, he said. Did you think I wouldn't follow? Lila stood, the dagger in her hand. You're too late, she said, but her voice wavered. Varen didn't move, just watched us, his eyes like black glass. Give me the dagger, he said, and I'll let you walk away. I laughed, bitter and tired. You think I believe that? You're not with the fist, are you? You're after the same thing everyone else is, power. Varen's face hardened. You don't understand what's coming, Kael. The dagger's not just a relic. It's a lock and you've already turned the key. Zareth was only the beginning. Before I could answer, the ground shook, the runes flaring bright. The tree's roots writhed and a voice, not Zareth's but deeper, older, rumbled through the grove. The blood calls, it said. The gate opens. Lila dropped the dagger, her eyes wide. Kael, what did you do? I didn't know. But the grove was alive and it wasn't friendly. Varen lunged, not for us but for the dagger, his blade flashing. Lila tackled him, claws raking his arm. I grabbed the dagger, its hum now a scream, and ran for the tree, not knowing why but feeling it was the only way. The roots parted, revealing a hollow, a void like the one I'd seen in the temple. The voice roared, shaking my bones. Feed me, it demanded. I raised the dagger, ready to throw it into the void, but Varen was on me, his sword at my throat. Drop it, he said, his voice low, or I end you. Lila screamed my name, but the void was pulling, the dagger burning in my hand. I made a choice, the only one I could. I drove the dagger into the tree, into the heart of the void, and everything went white. I woke in the clearing, alone. The dagger was gone, the tree still, the runes dark. Lila and Varen were nowhere to be seen. The air was quiet, but it felt like a lie. I staggered to my feet, my hands unmarked, the hum gone. But the weight in my chest remained. I made it back to Baldur's gate, slipping through the gates at dawn. The city was calmer, the fist patrols lighter, the graffiti fading. But I knew better. Something was out there waiting. I don't know if I closed the gate or opened it wider. I don't know if Lila's alive or Varen, or what they were really after. I'm back in the attic writing this down. The city's holding its breath and so am I. If you see a crescent and dagger symbol, run. If you hear a voice in the dark, don't listen. And if you find a dagger that hums like it's alive, leave it be. Some doors aren't meant to be opened,